Well, hello everyone. Here, right here, talk about for Grand Theft Auto Vice City, and this right here is a sketch that I went ahead and put together. This was from a long time ago before I even had a computer, but this right here will be like a little 3D effect from just to kind of follow up from if anybody who is familiar with like most of the Rockstar games for GTA for Grand Theft Auto 3, and then that there was Liberty City stores and Vice City, and they had San Andreas and all those other games. But including Midnight Club as well, but other Rockstar games. But I know Vice City was one of the games that I liked playing a lot. Just like if anybody say that during gameplay that you're basically are what you call main this main character by the name of Tommy Vercetti, and then going around driving around town stealing cars, and you have a variety of weapons also, and plus that you're able to, you're able to perform any missions and jobs and stuff like that. But basically, it's like that during the gameplay though, that I know it was like my dad and I that we played a lot of times, and it was like the first thing that we noticed that during the first thing I noticed whenever, because I remember that the game was hard to find, so whenever I finally got the game, that the first thing that I remember was like to where that during the 3-star felony during the gameplay, that the helicopter would be following, will be chasing you, during a time that, I'm like, if you want to start any commotion with the police, and then that, you would, have the police, the VCPD, follow, chasing you during the 3-star felony. And I can remember the first thing I can remember was zooming into this telescopic sight with the sniper rifle and trying to spot the pilot. So you have right here is the sketch right here I want to put together right here. I talk about that with the pilots right here, and so it's like you have right here is this little telescopic symbol right here. This right here was supposed to be an example right here of like a target, like a sniper rifle, and so during the gameplay that we can maybe say that if you're going to be on high buildings or something like that, that you would be able to zoom in and zoom out. And especially, if you were like Easter eggs, if you were to be shooting at the moon, and you would see the moon shrinking and enlarging and all that. But this right here is talk about with the helicopter, though. That, my dad and I, we were worried too, that, why is it that we could not see the pilot inside the helicopter? And, we always thought that it was pretty funny, because it was like, that, during the whole game process, I guess you could say that it's a game, so not everything that you're going to be doing is like what you call between reality and then, if it's actuality or Hollywood or anything like that. But still, during the gameplay, as wonders toward how come the pilots, how come the planes and helicopters do not include any source of a pilot inside the cockpit, inside the helicopter. And you just like wonder about that, to where that whenever... Well, the first, whenever Grand Theft Auto first, Vice City was first released, I can remember that the first thing that they announced is to where that you had the capability to where you could fly helicopters, and that you would be able to fly planes. And whenever that game first came out, it was like, that's like the first thing that I want to do, is to where that I would be able to find a helicopter and fly the helicopter. And whenever Vice City was released, I think it was back in the summer of 2003, whenever that came out, I can remember that, getting a level 3 felony, and then, wanted to somehow, I could not find a helicopter anywhere, so I want to think about it as like a way of how to steal one of those police helicopters, in midair, but still, that I know that, like, if it's going to be tech supported, like, want to know about, why is it that there is nobody flying the helicopter? Because whenever looking into the, if anybody say, that, if you want to go to level 4 and level 5, Star Felony, and just like think is to where, okay, so it goes up to 4 or 5, and then you're gonna have the helicopter chasing you, and it goes to level 5, and then they have the SWAT team and the FBI and the Army chasing after you as well. But during the gameplay, though, I was like warned to where that, this right here will be an example right here of a sketch of a helicopter. It's an old sketch, and I did some Photoshop work with it. But you see right here is I included the pilots right there, if you can see that. Include the pilots from an angle, And I know that with the pilots, though, that like weren't to where that a lot of the if you want to call it the developers, that whenever they developed the game of GTA Vice City, that I guess that there's a number of concerns to think about to where that why is it that they included maybe the spotlights and then to program it to where that the helicopter would say something like say something like, this is the VCPD, stop right now. And so yeah, that there would be a lot of the thing, like the helicopter, and then you would have the police driving around in their police cars and stuff. But just wondering as to where that the first thing that I noticed about the game is to where that there was no pilot inside the cockpit of the helicopter. And like most artists, that whenever you're going to be designing something, that you'll be thinking too is to where that you would maybe go ahead and put whatever you want on the helicopter, including maybe strobe lights, something like that, or maybe if you say that, yeah, that's supposed to be a city or a county chopper or something, and a helicopter, maybe for the Marines or something like that. This right here is a design, coloring right here of a helicopter for like the U.S. Army. I remember, this is an old painting too that I did this on Microsoft Paint. So you have these two different examples right here of these helicopters. And so it's like, if anybody would say be creative, but also that I'm also wondering too as to where that, maybe drawing the details is totally different compared to developing a game. And I guess the best answer would be as to where that if anybody were to say that, how come, during gameplay now, it seems like they got all this online stuff, but during the time of the Sony PlayStation 2, that they had a lot of what you can do on the game, that, allow it to where you can fly the helicopters and then fly the planes. And so it's just like this, as to where that, sometimes it seems like that maybe the developers got too carried away and forgot to include certain things, and maybe that they gone too far with the game as well. But I was just wondering too, as to where my dad and I were just wondering that, ask him, it's like, how come we can't see the pilot inside the cockpit? And so you're looking into the telescopic sight with the sniper rifle. So you have right here is this example right here of this, of like the sniper rifle view right here. And if anybody were to say that, if you're going to be, like, say during the gameplay that you're going to go and shoot the chopper out of the air, shoot the helicopter out of the air, and then, and, in order to be able to do that, you had the choice between the rocket launcher and, other sorts of weapons that you have during the game of Grand Theft Auto, but one of those will be with the sniper rifle. With the sniper rifle, if anybody knows, is that whenever you're zooming into the cockpit of the helicopter with the sniper rifle, you can't see the pilots. You can see the inside of the helicopter, but you just cannot see the pilots. And I know maybe the PC version, and I would probably be different, but still that you would not be able to see the pilots. And so that was for about over a year that I was always warning about that, to where during gameplay, that really that you're zooming into a telescopic sight. But I can remember that whenever when you can actually steal one of those helicopters in the air, especially on San Andreas, and and I guess on Grand Theft Auto 4, I guess if you would be able to steal one of those helicopters in the air. But I guess during the time with gameplay, I guess those developers, I guess that whenever they developed that game, that there was what you call certain ways about certain questions to be answered. But one of those will be is to where that during gameplay you would be able to fly the helicopters. But of course, it did not really include as to where that, okay, does the pilot, the pilots have to be a male or a female, and then do they really have to have what you call radio communication? And so far as well, there is no pilot at all inside the cockpit. The pilot is not there, and so it's like, yeah, that whenever you're going to be playing a game and want to know about why there is no pilot inside the helicopter. And so it seems kind of like a tease and kind of like a joke. And if anybody will warrant to where that whenever you do buy a game, maybe a puzzle, and find out that some pieces of the picture are missing, and I know that whenever you buy a game or buy a puzzle, then maybe you're going to maybe find, if you want to call them glitches, you're going to find some things that you see odd about them, or you're going to maybe see that you want recommendation, but still that whenever you're going to be playing a game that most of the time that are you going to be looking at is to where it's supposed to be fun, it's supposed to be just a game to where you play it for several hours and then you enjoy, you have fun with it, but still though that I also wanted to is to try to put as much artistic talent and put as much detail into a game whenever a new game is released that maybe a lot of game players would expect at new things, such as flying a helicopter and then expect what you can see with the sniper rifle and expect what you would be able to see whenever you're going to be out in the ocean, maybe going cruising around on the ocean with a boat or something like that, with the sea, with a jet ski or something like that. So yeah, nowadays, I guess Rockstar Games has a number of things that you can do with like a Grand Theft Auto 5 and all those other games, all the other releases, but all the other developments of the games, the earlier games, but anyway, earlier and later in latest games as well, but still that you talk about with the pilot right here. But I drew this right here. This was a long time ago whenever I drew this right here. But I was also thinking too, is to where whenever I found this, I wanted to go ahead and see how far I can get with doing some Photoshop work with it. So whenever I drew this helicopter right here, that if most of us have tried that to where during the gameplay that there were ropes that would come down. Yeah, there were ropes that would come down from the helicopter. There would be ropes that would come down, and there would be guys come down, and they would have their guns, and like say, yeah, and you would and have the main character would even be able to climb up into the helicopter and steal the helicopter in the air. And I know that if anybody asks, it's like, are you going to go ahead and draw a person? I'm like, if they were to be hanging on to the rope, yeah. So if anybody say, yeah, during gameplay, I know it. During the gameplay, the things that you can do, during the gameplay that maybe that you'll probably say that you'll try to figure out, but still that like they say is to where you find something odd about during gameplay about is to where that there are ropes that come down from from the helicopter right there, and you try one trick to where you can go ahead and try to climb up the ropes. And climb up into the helicopter and try to steal the helicopter. So you're likely think as to where you see that, and then you're like one or two as to where that oh, okay, well, how did you do that? So yeah, a lot of these, and I know nowadays with like live with like Xbox Live that maybe you can connect to other players that they can show you how to do that. How to climb up into the helicopter and yeah, if you want to do like multi, I guess, if you want to call that, 3-player mode to where that, you would be able to play with other players and just like, maybe like on, some of those other games too, is to where that you will be able to play with other players, and they'll be able to show you, how to climb up the rope, and then, how to ride along in the helicopter, and so they got all those other stuff. It's like a game, I guess, the type of game mode I'm trying to think about, but multiplayer, I guess if it's pronounced, multiplayer, you connect with other players, and they'll show you how to do all that, but still, that with flying the helicopters, that whenever this game was released back in 2003, that the first thing that they might say is to arrange it to where the main character will be able to fly a helicopter, if it was a police helicopter or if it was just one of those cruise helicopters. And I know that since then Rockstar Games, I'm sure, has developed a lot of game players' interest to where that allow it to where they could fly the helicopters around the city, and then allow it to where they could fly the planes. So I know Rockstar Games has come quite a long ways about how they develop their games, but still looking back at the good old days is to where that looking back at these during the gameplay, that this is what my dad and I were wondering to where that why is it that there is no pilot in the helicopter, that there is no that there is no pilot visible, and So it seems like maybe the best answer is going to be is to where that those developers that they decided not to include the pilot, just because that yeah, maybe because the release date was set for a certain day and then they were not able to finish up the whole project or something like that, or yeah, that they decided to use the extra memory. I'm like, yeah, whenever they develop the game, that they mainly want to focus as to where that allow the main character to be able to fly the helicopters, not really too much about the pilots. The pilots would be what you call those drivers, but then whenever you and I know whenever you card, I'm like, yeah, whenever you during gameplay, it basically seemed like to where it was all about being the criminal. Of your job was to take the pilots out. Was to carjack the car drivers and yeah. So you were basically a criminal during gameplay. So it was like, yeah, that during the time that you were playing the game, that there will be like different ways, 3 or 4 different ways to shoot the helicopter out of the air or to steal the helicopter out of the air. But now they have this allow it to where you can actually during gameplay that you would be able to show other players about how to do certain tricks and exercise it was, and one of those is how to climb up the rope. And so yeah, that during gameplay, that I guess you could say that yeah, climbing up the rope was not so simple because for what you had to push on that Sony PlayStation 2, that you basically had the X and then a triangle and then the square, but still that for how to do all that, and I guess how to do all that required the game processor to be able to respond to where how the players are entering into their controls about what the computer software is doing, and then for what's being pressed on the remote control. And I just really think this too is to where nowadays the way the design of the PC games are is that there's more than one button. So whenever you're going to be looking at that and thinking as to where that okay, there's going to be more than one button, and which one that to use to be able to climb up the rope. So yeah, that takes on a totally new challenge, and it's to think about as to where that Vice City, I guess, it is an old game, but still that always wonders as to why there was no pilots in the helicopter, and but still that. I also keep thinking too during the gameplay that I remember listening to the music a lot of times and being able to fly the helicopter around the city. So if anybody say that during the gameplay that you're also going to be thinking as to where a number of things that you did enjoy about the game, other than that there were maybe what you call some Easter eggs. That there were some those so-called Easter eggs as to where that to number of things that were missing, a number of things that could not be explained, but that they were happening during the gameplay. But I decided to show everybody that right there, or these are drawings that I went ahead and worked right here of a paint, using paint program, just to kind of show some of these drawings, because this was before I had a computer. Everybody, this was before I had a computer that I would sketch these, and would always wonder as to where that I would draw these, and I want to make sure that I included the pilots in there. And so it's like, yeah, that the main reason why I did this sketch right here was to show as to where that's supposed to be a helicopter right there, and that's the pilot is supposed to be right here. But even if you did have a telescopic sight at the pilot and want to know about it, as to where that how come you can't shoot how come you can't shoot the pilot? And so yeah, that never a question, but still that whenever you first play a game, maybe if it's going to be besides Grand Theft Auto, it could also be Gears of War or any game like that you're also going one or two to where maybe a number of things that you want to ask about, maybe just to kind of give it a tease or just to say make a suggestion or something like that, But really, though, I guess it's all about the fun of the matter. You have people that buy the game and then they check it out, or if anything, that they're going to be they're going to see the game, and so really, how does it begin? Really, necessarily, and then how does? But still, I guess That, one thing I did enjoy, and I know about a lot about the gameplay though, was as that you would be able to play different missions, and you'll be able to drive the ambulance, and do side missions and side jobs, and plus to play during the gameplay do actually participate in the mission. But I know that the first thing that they're going to say is toward it that you'll be able to fly a helicopter during gameplay. So being able to fly a helicopter during gameplay, I think, was the main reason to why a lot of people wanted to buy the game, was because that you would be able to fly the helicopter, and then the helicopter part. I think may have been one of the number one reasons to why that a lot of people want to say that they have the early release of Grand Theft Auto. They want to go ahead and buy it because they want to check out flying the helicopter. But so far as who's flying the helicopter, it's like seems to be a little bit out of the question, because of the fact about whenever, if you're going to be getting a level 2 or level 3 or level 4 Star Felony, and that your 1 or 2 is toward it, that basically means that the police are now acting in the SWAT teams after you, but you likely weren't toward. Who's flying that helicopter? Oh, well, here's the thing. You just got to figure out about how to try to steal the helicopter, or try to figure out how to fly the helicopter. So it seems like, that, just anything that you just kind of want to make a kind of like a tease about, or if anything, that, the helicopter right there, that, like we wanted to do during the gameplay, that you want to know about how come how come you only have a variety of only 9 weapons at a time, so the other things that, during gameplay that, other players who are going to be playing the game are going to be asked the questions, but still, that, I know that, whenever I was during the gameplay, though, that I know that flying a helicopter was going to be what's called one of the most, most popular, because a lot of people probably say that, in order to be able to buy the game, before they buy the game, is it going to be taking place in a new city, and then you got a new character here for a main character, but also that you would be able to pilot helicopters. So I know that during that time, back when I was very young, that I wanted to check into getting a pilot license myself, about how to learn to fly a helicopter and play that game of Grand Theft Auto Vice City. And I'm just like 1 or 2 as to where that what do you expect to know about, as to where that whenever you're zooming in, into the helicopter with telescopic sight with the sniper rifle, and find out that there's nobody inside the cockpit. There's nobody flying the helicopter, and you're like also 1 or 2 as to where that what's up with that. But well, I guess the best answer would be as to where that during the gameplay, please know as to where to complete the missions, and then you will be able to go further into the game. Go further into the game just to find out about how to pilot the helicopters, because those helicopters though that they might say that there might be a number of other reasons to why we get a simple answer or just a confusing answer about that. But I just really think, though, that, overall, I think Rockstar Games did pretty well putting the game together. Other than that, a few things that maybe I was always wondering, too, about during gameplay. That, one of those would be as to that how come that there was only one player, and that the other one was about, and I know that, a little bit of the graphics, I know compared to 3 and compared to Vice City, that I thought that maybe the graphics in between, but still that overall during the gameplay was to be able to allow the main character to be able to fly a helicopter and then fly a plane. And I know from that strategy guide that I can remember reading about, is to where a lot of the game players want to, and they were asking about, besides at that 100% or something like that to complete all missions, to be able to get the best driving vehicle in the whole game, but still. A lot of them were asking about, well, hey, where can I find a helicopter? Hey, where can I find a plane? So a lot of times, though, it's like during the gameplay, you had a lot of game players who would ask that question to where, how can I find a helicopter? I want to fly the helicopter. But anyway, but thanks for watching, everyone. Talking about with the during gameplay of Rockstar Games. But you have right here is like, that how come we can't see the pilot? But still that with anything about, for during gameplay that, for as far as development goes, is like, yeah, that you're also one too, is to where that you'd like be able to connect with other players. But anyway, thanks for watching, everyone, and have a great day.